I knew things had changed when Ronnie Stetzer came back to town. He was at one time my wife's fiancée, Cindy. Ronnie had broken up with Cindy a year before I met her. She made no secret of the fact that Ronnie had broken her heart when he decided to break up with her and marry a rich woman 10 years older. I started dating Cindy. She didn't have the great looks of a model or movie star, but she was very pretty. She had soft brown hair and brown eyes and a beautiful face, but it was her loving heart that drew me to her. We were married about a year later, and our little girl Amanda was born 9 months later. Life was good for 18 of our 19 years together. We had our disagreements, but nothing serious until recently. Usually our disagreements came when we shared responsibilities. Cindy was the only child in the family and was spoiled by her parents. Over the years, however, she learned to keep her stubbornness in check. When our daughter was born, Amanda became my little princess. We were especially close and our family was very friendly. However, over the last year, Cindy and I seemed to be drifting apart. I began to realize that we were doing less and less together. However, our lovemaking was very good, and we did it at least twice a week and more often than that. Cindy seemed happiest when we were cuddling. I knew she loved me deeply. I still loved Cindy, but in a different way. It was no longer like the hot, passionate love we had felt when we were first married. We were like two old shoes that had known better days but fit together well. Still, I loved my wife very much and especially loved the life we had built. When Amanda graduated from high school, the changes in Cindy seemed to accelerate. She seemed to be on the verge of a breakdown, and the closer it got to the time when Amanda would leave for college, the more uncomfortable Cindy became. I was now the chief of detectives for the sheriff's department, and I had 32 detectives under me. Since this county wasn't a high-crime county, the job wasn't too stressful. Cindy was still working as a dental hygienist. About a month after Amanda left for college, Ronnie showed up at a barbecue thrown by a couple, John and Smythe, who were more Cindy's friends than mine. Nevertheless, John and I got along just fine, since he owned a security company, and we always had a lot to talk about. I had no idea Ronnie would be there, but Cindy certainly did. She immediately pulled away from me, which wasn't unusual, and started circling. But an hour later, I went looking for her and found her and Ronnie sitting on the porch. As I approached, Cindy's neck was slightly flushed, which meant she was up to something I wasn't going to like. She quickly introduced me to Ronnie, and my stomach clenched. As a cop, I had developed an inner instinct, and mine told me this was real trouble. Cindy tried to brush it off like she was surprised to see him, and they were just reminiscing about old times. But her neck turned red during the explanation. I decided I wasn't going to blow this whole thing out of proportion. As a police officer, I deal with extremely unpleasant situations many times. Nevertheless, it is necessary to handle them in a calm and professional manner. Sometimes that can be very difficult. The next working day after the barbecue, I checked on Ronnie through my channels. I learned that his wife had died of cancer a year ago. In all those years, Ronnie hadn't even had a speeding ticket, let alone other problems with the police. As the months went by, we saw Ronnie more and more often. I knew this was no accident, so I began to prepare for the worst. I figured that any day now, Cindy would want to talk to me about something. But as prepared as I was, Cindy blew me out of the water when she decided to do it. We had just finished a rare morning lovemaking session, and I thought that maybe all my worries had been for nothing. It was clear to me that Cindy still loved me as much as ever. "Ted, I want to talk to you about something," she said nervously. "And I don't want you to be angry. I want you to let me finish before you say anything." My stomach flipped. "You know Ronnie was my first love," she explained. "We were engaged. Then he fell in love with Catherine, and we broke up. After his wife died, he was devastated. He's so lonely. He tells me he still loves me, and I have to admit I still love him. But at the same time, I love you." I didn't say a word and tried my best to control my breathing and stay calm. That gave Cindy courage because she smiled and continued. "I still want to be your wife, but I want to be with Ronnie too. Ronnie and I talked it over and decided it would be fair for me to stay with you for a week and him for a week." I slipped out of bed, got dressed, and left without a word. I headed to my office and closed the door. The receptionist looked at my unshaven face but didn't ask. I told her I didn't want to be disturbed unless it was something serious. I was left alone. I sat in the unlit office for hours. I went over and over in my head the proposal my wife had made to me. It was the most selfish thing she could have done. It was clear to me that Cindy wanted to sit on 2 chairs. That can't happen. She would have to choose. Around 5 o'clock, I got home. I was really annoyed when I saw Ronnie's car in the driveway. I tried to pull myself together and use all my years of police training to stay calm. However, all that training didn't prepare me for anything like this. I found them in the living room sitting nervously. Cindy quickly stood up and walked over to me to kiss me. I pushed her away and saw that she was in pain, but I didn't care. "We need to talk about this," Cindy said nervously. "We don't have anything to talk about," I replied shortly. "You either want to be with the asshole or you want to be with me. You can't have him and me." "I don't think you've fully thought this proposal through," Ronnie said, looking at me nervously. "I'm not going to take your wife away from you. I'm just going to give her the extra love she needs. Yes, we'll share her, but she'll never miss any of her marital obligations." Now, my inner rage was almost on the verge of boiling over. That smug bastard had just told me that I should let Cindy sleep with him because she needed the extra love. They both made me cringe. And in that moment, I realized my marriage was over. "Except," I said, looking fiercely at Ronnie, "the marital duty of giving up all the others." "No, I'm not going to agree to that." "Ted," Cindy said with an expression that told me she was now upset with me. "It's going to happen. The question is whether or not you're going to be a part of it." "No," I said. "Both of you leave." Cindy burst into tears. "Ted, please give me this. I've been a faithful wife all these years. Ronnie was my first love, but I don't want to lose you. I love you so much, but I love Ronnie too." I snorted and looked at Ronnie. "Tell me, Ronnie, if your late wife had come to you with a similar offer, would you have accepted it?" He smiled at me and nodded. "If it could make my wife happy, I'd gladly accept it." "Bullshit," I said with more force than I meant to. But I wanted to follow through with my thoughts, so I turned to Cindy. "What about you, Cindy? If I came home with an ex-girlfriend and told you I wanted you to share me with her, how would you feel about that?" Cindy hesitated for a few seconds before answering. "I'd probably be upset like you are right now, but in the end I'd agree, because I really love you and want you to be happy." "More bullshit," I said, shaking my head. "I'm going to contact my lawyer in the morning to negotiate a divorce. I think the division of assets should be pretty straightforward. The house only has a small mortgage. Once that is paid off, we will split the proceeds. Our investments, savings, and current accounts will be split. Amanda's college fund will remain untouched. There will be no alimony since you'll be living with the asshole sitting there. Now both of you please leave." Cindy was crying to the point of tears as Ronnie took her hand. Walking to the door, Cindy turned to me and said, "If you change your mind, I love you very much. I want you in my life." As soon as they left, the silence of the house came over me. I felt empty inside, but my years on the force had taught me stamina. I put the wound in the box and closed the lid. Then I went to my office and started making a list of what I needed to do. I knew exactly what kind of lawyer I was going to get. Her name was Sally Leone. She had a reputation as a real shark in divorce proceedings. She usually represented wives, and the poor husbands never knew what hit them. Over the years, our paths crossed. I helped her many times when needed. I looked over the list and realized there was one thing I hadn't done yet. I need to call Amanda and let her know what's going on. It broke my heart to have to tell my little girl what her mother was doing. It took Amanda a full 5 minutes to calm down, so I could truly understand her. What happened next was a surprise. "That damn whore did this to you, Daddy," she said venomously. "All these years you've been so good to her, to us. And now she's stabbing you in the back. If she does that, I want nothing to do with her." "Amanda," I said calmly, "you're very upset right now and I understand how you feel. But Cindy is your mother, and she loves you unconditionally. Don't ruin your relationship with your mother over this. We'll all lose if you do. Can't you at least wait a few days before you talk to her?" "What if she calls me?" Amanda asked. "If she does, I'll give her the full story. Please, if she calls, don't answer for a few days. Promise me you'll do that." Amanda reluctantly agreed to honor my request. Later that night, Cindy called me very concerned. She had tried to call Amanda but was unable to. I explained that I had spoken to her, and our daughter was obviously upset. I explained to Cindy that Amanda wanted to calm down before talking to either of us about the subject. I bet you turned her against me, Cindy accused me. I bet you painted the most disgusting picture you could. Cindy, how can I paint a worse picture than you've already painted? I said calmly, knowing it would make her angry. Her mother wants her father to let her sleep with another man. Before Cindy could say anything, I decided to tackle one of the items on my list. Now that I have you on the line, you should hire a lawyer. Please, Ted, don't do this, she cried again. It's killing me that you want me out of your life. I love you so much. Can't you give in to me a little? There's nothing to discuss, Cindy, I said, and hung up the phone. I took the next week off to focus on getting all the ducks in a row, but the nights were horrible. Lying in bed alone was unbearably lonely. I would wake up in the morning and reach for Cindy, only to remember why she wasn't there. The first thing I did was call Sally, but I was unpleasantly surprised when she told me that Ronnie had already called her. That bastard was secretive. He must have already figured out who the best divorce lawyer was, and now he was ahead of me. Well, if I can't hire you, I said, somewhat offended, can you recommend someone I should hire? I said Ronnie contacted me, Sally snorted. I didn't say he hired me. In fact, I told him you'd already hired me. Wow, I said with great relief, I really appreciate you doing this. Ted, most men in this town think I'm a piece of shit, she said bitterly. You're one of the few who has always treated me with respect. You're one of the few who has tried your best to help me. I've always appreciated that. There's no way I would ever turn against you. Again, I'm very grateful. You'll still have to pay my fee, she said with a laugh. I really appreciate you, but I have to pay for the lights too. It's not a problem, Sally, and thanks again. Even days later, the phone conversation between Cindy and Amanda didn't go well. According to both, it degenerated into a shouting match with ugly names thrown back and forth. Cindy called me afterward, almost hysterical that she had lost her daughter forever. I told her I'd talk to Amanda and try to work things out, but it turned out to be much harder than I could have imagined. Amanda was angry when I spoke to her a week later. According to my daughter, she told her mother that she wanted nothing to do with her. Cindy would not be invited to the prom or wedding, and if she had grandchildren, she would never meet them. Now I understood why Cindy was hysterical. The calls from Cindy continued until the day of the divorce. She kept begging me to reconsider and accept their plan. I, of course, continued to refuse. After the divorce, the calls stopped and I tried to move on. Thank goodness I had a job. As chief of detectives, my schedule was pretty flexible. Over the next 6 months, I became much more hands-on. I was often able to point some of my new detectives in the right direction. That way, they didn't waste any time descending into obvious dead ends. I also began to review our unsolved cases. As a result of my efforts, we were able to close a long-forgotten murder case. It turned out that the victim's ex-boyfriend had done it. They always had the evidence, but they just didn't see it. For that, I got a commendation and a raise. Cindy and Ronnie got married about a month after the divorce. They wanted to buy my half of the house. But the thought of Ronnie living in my house turned me inside out. Ronnie threatened to go to court to force me to sell it. I told him to go ahead and sue. I was friendly with all the appraisers in town, and when I explained my dilemma, they all agreed to help. The appraisals were much higher than the house was worth, yet Ronnie didn't care. He paid a ridiculously high price for my house. It pissed me off, but there was nothing I could do about it. In the end, though, I liked the result. I got a lot more money out of the sale than I could have. The divorce went better than I thought it would. I have Sally to thank for that. Her analysis was so thorough that she found information that helped me. The down payment on the house was inherited from my grandfather. Thus, the amount was not considered community property. As a result, I received about 75% of the sale proceeds. With that money, I bought myself a cash apartment not far from work. Life goes on, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't hurt. All those years with Cindy, and here she decided I wasn't enough. I tried to go back to the dating scene, but it was even more depressing. Most of the women I dated came with a ton of baggage. Some of them were just plain intimidating, and almost all of them desperately wanted to get married. I, on the other hand, wasn't interested in marriage. I'd been down that road before. One night, about 8 months after Ronnie and Cindy's wedding, I was having dinner at a restaurant. I didn't realize they were there until Cindy sat down. I was surprised to see my ex-wife, but decided I wasn't going to be nasty. I looked around and saw Ronnie sitting at a table at the other end, studying the menu. "How are you doing, Ted?" Cindy asked quietly. "I'm doing fine," I replied with a sad smile. "How are you doing?" "I still miss you every day," she said, placing her hand on top of mine. "I still love you very much. If you ever find it in your heart to accept Ronnie, I'd love to be with you again." At first, I was going to pull my arm out from under her and tell her to go for a walk, but then an idea hit me. I'd have to talk to Amanda first, but it might be something I could do to get back at that asshole, Ronnie. "I miss you too, Cindy," I admitted honestly. "I hate waking up and you're gone, but you're a married woman now. By the way, I think your husband is looking for you." Cindy looked at Ronnie, and he was looking at her with a what the hell expression. She just nodded to her husband and stood up. "Remember, I still love you." That same night, I called Amanda and explained what I wanted to do. At first, she was horrified and told me I was giving in to this slut. Then I explained why I wanted to do it, and she started giggling. The giggling turned to laughter. "That's just great, Daddy," Amanda finally said. "Go for it." The next day, I called Cindy with my daughter's blessing. I told her I wanted to talk to her and Ronnie. I told her I was thinking about our conversation yesterday. Cindy was thrilled, and we agreed to meet at our old house at 7 o'clock that evening. I arrived at 7 sharp. Cindy led me into the living room. It was disheartening to see him sitting on the couch in my former home. However, I took some satisfaction in the annoyed expression on his face. It was clear to me that Cindy had blamed this meeting on Ronnie at the last minute. He glared at me like a dagger. I pretended not to notice anything. After pouring us each a cup of coffee, Cindy settled on the couch between Ronnie and me. I got right to the point. "Cindy, what did you mean when you said the offer to share still stands?" A smile appeared on Cindy's face. "Yes, absolutely, the offer still stands. I told you that I still love you deeply. It's just that I love Ronnie too." "Well, if you agree," I said, trying to feign nervousness, "I'd say yes. I don't have anyone right now. At least this way I'll have you part of the time. I've been so lonely without you." Cindy rushed over to me. She kissed me as passionately as we had never kissed before. "Ted, you've made me the happiest woman in the world." "Wait a minute," Ronnie said, standing up. "We haven't discussed this yet." "It's the same thing you suggested," I told Ronnie calmly. "Yes, but still, Cindy, you and I need to discuss it first." Ronnie was very excited. "We've already discussed it," Cindy said, a little surprised by Ronnie's objection. "When did we discuss it?" Ronnie blushed. "Don't forget, we discussed it before we presented Ted with the plan. You said you were more than willing to share." Ronnie was discouraged by his own words, and there was nothing he could do about it. Still, he wasn't going to give up so easily. "I still think we need to talk about it." The thought of pointing out to Ronnie what a hypocrite he was on my tongue. It was the same deal he'd offered me, but now the shoe was on the other foot. He was the husband and I was the ex. However, I decided to let this drama play out between Cindy and Ronnie without my involvement. "Okay, I'll leave and wait to hear from you, Cindy," I said, kissing her before leaving. Once back in the car, I started laughing my ass off. I had switched roles with this asshole. Now he was wriggling like a worm. I wish I had been a fly on the wall that night. The next day, I got a call from Cindy saying that Ronnie was very upset. But when she told him she was going to leave, he agreed. Cindy would spend 1 week with me and 1 week with Ronnie. Of course, at Ronnie's insistence, none of this could be done until I was tested for STDs. I agreed on the condition that they both get tested as well. Cindy didn't object, but Ronnie was not happy. As it turned out, we were all clean. The next week, I stopped by to pick up Cindy. Cindy looked good when she came to the door. Ronnie, on the other hand, looked like he had murder on his mind. I grabbed Cindy and kissed her hard. Then I grabbed her 2 suitcases and we walked out. I decided that I would do everything I could to make this night special. I took her out to dinner and then to the dance. Then we went back to my apartment. "I want you inside me," she whispered hoarsely. "When you're inside me, I know you still love me." I loved Cindy, but not enough to want her to be my wife again. We lay there and cuddled until I fell asleep. The week went by quickly and very pleasantly. I had to work, so I told Cindy that she could go home for the day if she wanted. Cindy was adamant she was my wife for the week. That made me cringe inwardly. But hell, if that's what she wanted to believe, that was fine with me. All I was interested in was fucking Ronnie's wife. She cleaned the house, went grocery shopping, washed my clothes, cooked meals, and even set our dinner times. I had a blast. I even got Amanda to talk to her mother without yelling at her. Of course, Amanda was aware of my plan, and I'm sure she laughed at how clueless her mother was. As I drove Cindy home, Ronnie looked both pleased and angry. Whatever anger was simmering inside him, he kept it in check. He kissed Cindy passionately right in front of me. I just pecked Cindy on the cheek, said, "I love you," and left. For the next 3 months, our new agreement was honored. I have to say, for me, this arrangement was great. Fucking Cindy after the divorce was a hit, especially since it was her suggestion. I was now getting laid 6 or 7 times a week. Another benefit of this new arrangement was that I convinced Amanda to come home and spend some time with us. I'm not sure if my daughter did this because she missed her mother or if she was making fun of her. One day, maybe 2 months after this new arrangement began, I was checking on my 3 detective teams working different crime scenes. Just then, a call came over the radio about a disturbance at Mick's Tavern. Since I was only a block away from there, I decided to check it out for myself. When I got there, I found that there had been an altercation with a drunken customer. I was surprised to find out that the drunk was Ronnie. I decided to take care of the problem. After letting the 2 officers go, I turned to Ronnie. "Come on, Ronnie," I said, taking his hand. "I'll take you home. I don't need your fucking help." "Ronnie, your choice is either I take you home or you go to jail. What's better for you?" He decided to take the ride home. All the way to my old house, we didn't say a word. When he got out of my car, all he said was, "Fuck you." By the 4th month, Ronnie was less and less happy about our arrangement. He and Cindy argued about it more and more. He wanted it to stop, but Cindy couldn't understand why. I didn't interfere in their discussions. I just kept telling Cindy that she was wonderful and continued to get all the sex I wanted for a week. This arrangement allowed me to sleep with her much more than when we were married. Finally, when I came to pick up Cindy for a week, about 5 months after our agreement, things came to a boil. Ronnie and Cindy were yelling at each other in the yard. I decided to try to calm them down. "I think you guys should calm down," I said with a smirk, "or someone will call the police." "Fuck you," Ronnie threw angrily before turning to Cindy again. "If you go with him, then our relationship is over." "We had a deal, Ronnie," she said with a nasty note in her voice. Since I've known Ronnie, I've never seen my ex-wife speak to her new husband with anything other than affection. "The agreement is bullshit," Ronnie yelled. "And I'm telling you again that if you go with him, it's over." "You can't be serious," Cindy said in a dismissive tone. "You were the one who came up with the idea of the exchange a long time ago." With those words, Ronnie stormed into the house and slammed the door shut. I looked at Cindy questioningly. "He's just having a bad day," Cindy said, taking my hand. "He'll get over it, and everything will go back to normal." Things didn't go back to normal. Apparently, Ronnie had moved out. Cindy tried to talk to him, but he was adamant. They were done. Around noon on Wednesday, Cindy called me and told me what had happened. "He left me, Ted," she said, sobbing. "Can I move in with you?" "Yes, I'll be at your place on Monday when it's time for my regular week," I said cheerfully. "But Ronnie's gone," Cindy said confused. "I want to come back to you completely. I realize I made a huge mistake. Everything Ronnie said about sharing was just bullshit to keep us apart. I want things to go back to the way they were." "Well, you see, Cindy," I said, feigning embarrassment. "You wanted me to share you. You didn't want me to work full-time. So I'm used to you being just a part-time wife. I don't think that's changed with Ronnie gone. So you still want me to pick you up on Monday?" Cindy started sobbing uncontrollably, and silence followed. For a moment, I thought she had hung up, but the bitter sobbing resumed. Finally, after several attempts, Cindy regained her speech and stammering said, "Yes, yes, please, Ted. I'd really like it if you want to know what rock bottom looks like, I'll give you a hint. Right now, I'm on the couch flipping through Modern Bride while sporting my finest yoga pants with holes and Ben's old college sweatshirt. The one that smells like old pizza and stale beer, super sexy. 3 years. That's how long it's been since the wedding, and let's just say the spark that set the whole happily ever after thing ablaze has become more of a sad little flicker. You know what they say about the 7-year itch? Well, the 3-year slump is real, and it hit us like a ton of bricks. Don't get me wrong, Ben's a great guy. We're like the poster couple for responsible adults, steady jobs, mortgage, the whole shebang. Trouble is, lately, that poster-perfect life feels a bit blah. Like the excitement just got sucked out with the last bit of toothpaste from our shared bathroom sink. My brilliant escape from this domestic bliss? Lunch with Emily. Em's the walking definition of a free spirit who can turn a trip to the DMV into an adventure, and today was no different. We hadn't even ordered drinks before she was spilling about her latest fight with What's-his face, the boyfriend who swears he's not commitment-phobic yet won't remember her birthday. A small, slightly terrible part of me couldn't help but feel a pang of envy. It's not that I want drama. Well, maybe a little. At least a break from laundry schedules and the dwindling romance with my husband, whose idea of a hot date is wearing an unironic Star Wars t-shirt to bed. I mean, the Force may be strong in him, but he falls asleep before the opening crawl, scrolling through work emails. Talk about killing the mood. Speaking of work, that's become my unexpected escape. We landed a big contract, which means a fancy new client team, complete with Mark. Mark, with his easy laugh and eyes that actually crinkle at the corners when he smiles. Something I haven't seen from Ben in a while. Suddenly, those late-night update calls don't seem quite so tedious. We joke about ridiculous client requests, about the too-strong office coffee, and something shifts. A lightness returns, a reminder of a time when a quick smile from a cute guy could make my stomach flutter. Maybe it's harmless, this workplace flirting with Mark. Maybe it's just a bit of fun to spice up the routine. Or maybe it's the first warning sign I'm careening toward a serious mid-marriage crisis. At least there'd be a story to tell at the next happy hour, even if the guy I'm catching eyes with across the table isn't my husband. Sweat stings my eyes as I pound away on the treadmill, the mindless rhythm a stark contrast to the wild thumping of my heart. My gym motivation playlist blares through my headphones, but all I can hear is the echo of last night. My cheeks burn, remembering the heat of Mark's lips on mine. The way I forgot about the world, forgot about Ben. Screw it. The gym can wait. I'm in dire need of retail therapy to distract myself. Plus, Operation Feel Desirable is in full swing, and a girl's gotta have the right outfit. The department store becomes a whirlwind of fabric and indecision, until a silky red dress catches my eye. Normally, I dismiss it as not me, but today, daring seems to be the theme. Slipping it on, I hold my breath in front of the mirror. The woman staring back looks bold, a little reckless, and honestly, kinda hot. Emily's birthday bash is my excuse to wear the dress and test out this newfound confidence. As I walk into the crowded bar, I feel a surge of nerves, but with every step in those ridiculously high heels, determination follows. And hey, the way Mark looks at me when I walk over. There's a spark there, an unspoken recognition of last night. That thrill shoots through me again, buzzing just under my skin. Drinks, laughter, and shared inside jokes with the new work crew make me forget, for a moment, about the complications waiting for me at home. For the first time in a long time, I'm just having fun. And when I catch Mark's gaze over the rim of my cocktail, I don't look away. Maybe I even lean in slightly, my fingers toying with a loose strand of hair. My phone buzzes, Ben, predictably, letting me know he'll be working late again. I barely glance at the screen. My attention is consumed by the easy banter with Mark, the way his hand brushes mine as he reaches for a napkin. The cab ride home is charged with an unspoken energy. Outside my apartment, a shared glance in the dim light says more than words ever could. The kiss is inevitable, and this time, it's I who step closer, hands tangling in his hair. It's wrong. So wrong. But that dangerous edge is intoxicating. I want more. My key in the lock is like a bucket of ice water to the face. Guilt washes over me, but there it is again, that addictive thrill, mixed with a fluttering excitement unlike anything I've felt with Ben in ages. Sleep doesn't come easily, and when it does, it's filled with tangled sheets and whispers of Mark's name. If Monday mornings were bad before, now they're a special kind of hell. Each click of my keyboard, every hum of the fluorescent lights, reminds me of the way Mark's hands felt on my skin, the taste of his mouth, the low rumble of his voice in my ear. How am I supposed to concentrate on spreadsheets when all I want is to relive last night? My phone buzzes under the desk. It's him, just a quick check-in, filled with playful innuendos that make me blush. Daringly, I text back, the double entendres and flirty emojis flowing recklessly from my fingertips. I know this is a game with fire, that I'm playing with forces I probably can't control, but right now, I don't care. The rest of the workday is a blur of stolen glances and whispered words in empty conference rooms. Mark and I are skating on thin ice, yet the thrill seems to fuel us both. Client meeting. That's code for a rendezvous in the underground parking garage. Need your input on this draft? That means a detour to his apartment and a missed deadline. Ben's none the wiser, caught up in his own work stress while I build an elaborate house of cards around him. Nights that should be spent grading my students' papers or binge-watching bad reality TV with Ben are now consumed by passionate encounters with Mark. We meet in dimly lit hotel rooms, the seedy atmosphere adding to the illicit rush. He learns my body in a way that feels new and yet frighteningly familiar. The recklessness that started as a flicker has ignited into a full-fledged inferno. With each stolen moment, a piece of me chips away. My careful planning, those silly routines I used to mock, they're replaced by a talent for deceit. New lingerie hidden in a drawer Ben never opens, a burner phone tucked into my purse, an ever-growing web of lies. Even Emily senses the change in me. Over after-work margaritas, she gushes about how I'm glowing, about how the gym must be doing wonders. I laugh, and the guilt gnaws at me, knowing the real reason for the sparkle in my eyes. There's a strange twist to my newfound recklessness. It's affecting my work. Without the constant weight of guilt, I'm taking risks, speaking my mind, pushing for projects I'd normally shy away from. It's paying off. My boss notices, whispers of promotion potential start swirling, and somewhere amongst the chaos, I start to wonder, who am I becoming? The calendar on my phone mocks me. 3 years, that little heart icon next to the date gleams innocently, oblivious to the minefield my life has become. Ben's planned a surprise anniversary dinner. Seriously, could life throw me a bigger curveball right now? I paste on a happy face as he opens the door, a bottle of wine in one hand, takeout in the other. Typical Ben, predictable, safe, loving. Yet, all I can think of is Mark and how he makes me feel reckless, desired, like a whole other woman. There's something about the way Ben beams at me across the candlelit table that makes me want to scream. I smile sweetly as he reminisces about our first date, that disastrous attempt at karaoke where laughter saved the night. Right now, that laughter feels light years away. My guilt sits like a lead weight in my stomach, twisting with every sip of wine and half-hearted response. The anniversary gift is the final blow. A delicate gold locket, he calls it a symbol of our love, and I feel a wave of nausea. My finger absent-mindedly traces the burner phone hidden in my pocket, a tangible reminder of the lies I'm drowning in. I lie awake that night. Ben's soft snores a rhythmic counterpoint to my own spiraling thoughts, the locket burning a hole in my nightstand. Images of Mark flash through my mind, the feel of his hands on me, the whispered intimacy. I want to scream, to shake myself free of this destructive obsession. But even as disgust wars with desire, I know that tomorrow, I'll find some flimsy excuse to see Mark again. He's like a drug I can't quit cold turkey. So when a last-minute business trip pops up, conveniently in the same city where Mark's headed next week, it's almost too easy to invent a reason to go. My heart pounds with a sickening mix of shame and anticipation. Mark books the same hotel within minutes of my email confirmation. I tell myself it's just for research, that I need to know what the thrill is all about. But deep down, I know I'm lying. Stepping into that familiar hotel lobby, everything feels like a twisted dream. The stolen moments in stairwells, the hurried kisses, the hushed declarations of something that feels like love. It's its own intoxicating world, one I can't seem to escape. Yet, as I slip out of the hotel room the morning after, a wave of disgust washes over me. The rumpled sheets, the lingering scent of cologne, it's all so tawdry. The woman I see in the mirror, makeup smudged, eyes haunted, Looks like a stranger. Is this who I want to be? If I never have to bake another lasagna or feign delight over Ben's meticulously planned spreadsheets detailing our hypothetical future kids' college funds, it'll be too soon. This desperate attempt to play perfect wife is cracking beneath the surface. Every thoughtful gesture towards Ben, every forced smile, only amplifies the distance between us. And worse yet, the image of Mark invades my thoughts every time I close my eyes, a constant reminder of the passion I buried to put on this pathetic performance. I try to focus on anything but that disastrous business trip, on work, on my students, even on the endless piles of laundry that always seem to regenerate overnight. Then Emily comes over, a bottle of wine in hand and ready to vent about her latest relationship drama. Her tearful confession about feeling taken for granted hits me like a punch to the gut. I've been so wrapped up in my own mess, I couldn't see what was right in front of me. You deserve someone who sees you, Em. I say with a conviction I don't feel for myself. The hypocrisy hangs heavy in the air, and Emily just sighs. It's a relief, in a painful way, to finally understand the weight of her frustration. In a twisted turn of fate, the promotion I'd been fighting for comes through. The champagne toast feels hollow. Did I earn this success? Or is it just a twisted reward for the daring, reckless version of myself I've become? That's a question I don't want to answer. And then, like a cruel cosmic joke, Ben's schedule mirrors mine. Suddenly it's him with the late nights at the office, the missed dinners, the half-hearted apologies. A spark of suspicion, ugly and unfamiliar, flares up within me. What if he's playing the same game I am? The sting feels strangely deserved. As our anniversary weekend approaches, the idea of pretending everything's perfect grows unbearable. I book a luxury suite at a swanky hotel, a desperate attempt to assuage my guilt with extravagance. Happy anniversary, honey. I want the words to sound genuine, but I can practically taste the lie. The locket Ben gave me sits heavily around my neck. I remember the joy in his eyes when he clasped it on, and I want to crawl out of my skin. Is there any escape from this mess of deception I've woven? So maybe I should never take Emily's advice about loosening up after she dumps another useless boyfriend. But standing here, in the middle of this absurdly lavish party at Mark's boss's house, a few too many glasses of champagne deep, it feels like I'm starring in some crazy soap opera. I could spot a desperate housewife a mile away. If it weren't for the killer heels I'm teetering on that definitely weren't part of my old wardrobe. But hey, tonight's a night for being someone else, right? Mark hangs close by, throwing furtive glances and that little half smirk that sets my pulse racing. I've got this under control, I tell myself. I'm playing a role, pulling the strings of this dangerous little charade. That illusion shatters when I spot Ben. He's deep in conversation with Rebecca, our new project lead. I barely know the woman, yet a wave of irrational jealousy washes over me. She's laughing at some geeky joke he's making, her eyes bright. They look comfortable. It's a sickening echo of the ease Mark and I share, and something ugly twists within me. Champagne-fueled and spurred by a desperate need to prove something. What? I don't even know. I find myself cornering a junior associate from legal. Brian? Brad? Whatever his name is, he's young, cute, and blushing furiously as I lean a little closer, my voice a playful murmur. I can feel Mark watching from across the room. Jealousy flickers in his eyes, and for one intoxicating moment, I feel a rush of power. This is a game, and damn it, I'm going to win. The party spills outside, and the sprawling garden becomes a playground of shadows and whispered conversations. I pretend I don't hear Brad stumbling through an awkward confession. I pretend not to notice Mark stalking off toward the pool, anger radiating off him. In that dimly lit corner, away from prying eyes, I don't push Brad away. The kiss is sloppy, fueled more by impulsiveness and alcohol than genuine attraction, but it serves its purpose. I glance up to see Mark's face contorted in fury, and then he just walks away. The cab ride home with Ben is a blur. Shame, anger, and a confusing pang of excitement war within me. Did I just weaponize another man to hurt Mark? Or am I suddenly capable of wanting more than what either of them can give me? If anyone ever asked me what hell looks like, I'd describe the week after that party. At work, Mark and I circle each other like wary tigers, a palpable tension sizzling between us that everyone seems to sense but can't quite pinpoint. At home, I force myself through the motions, cooking dinners I have lost all taste for, smiling at Ben until my cheeks ache. But the emptiness, the crushing guilt, is a suffocating vice. It's a damn shame I don't have my old sweatpants on standby, the ones with the embarrassing ketchup stain Ben used to tease me about. They'd feel strangely fitting right now. Instead, I'm pulling myself together for work, trying to ignore the way my reflection looks gaunt and hollow. Distraction comes in the form of a stray voicemail on Ben's phone while he's in the shower. A woman's voice, playful and soft, with a teasing lilt that makes my blood run cold. Can't wait for next weekend. Think of me. The voicemail cuts off, but my world has already fractured. Suddenly, those late nights at the office, the business trips I never questioned, flash before my eyes like neon signs spelling out the truth. Rage courses through me, a blinding, destructive force. When Ben emerges from the shower, I'm ready for him. Years of deception fuel my every word. His lame excuses, meetings running late, last-minute client dinners, are echoes of my own pathetic lies, and they taste like ash in my mouth. And suddenly, the truth is out. Not out of soul-cleansing confession, but as a weapon, a twisted missile I launch to destroy the very foundation of my own guilt. Mark, I spit out, it's the same for me. The look on Ben's face. It's not just fury, but a wounded, devastated pain that cuts deeper than any insult. I realize with sickening clarity what I've become. A mirror image of the very thing I resent. The ensuing hours are a whirlwind of screaming accusations and hurled insults. Our carefully constructed home transforms into a battleground where years of unspoken resentments explode like landmines. With each bitter word, a horrifying realization takes root. I've been so desperate to avoid the dull ache of my complacent life that I've willingly set everything on fire, just to feel something. Honestly, I'm surprised I haven't been consumed by a black hole of despair at this point. Weeks slide by, and I move through them like a ghost, barely eating, haunted by nightmares of Ben's face, the utter devastation I saw there. I'm living proof that you can, in fact, die of a broken heart and still get up and go to work. Speaking of work, that's become its own special hell. There are whispers, sidelong glances, the awkward silence of colleagues who don't know how to act around the office pariah. Mark, the source of my downfall, now avoids me like the plague. Our once stealing moments are now fodder for company gossip, the details no doubt embellished with each retelling. The promotion feels like the ultimate slap in the face. Remember those ambitions, that ruthless streak I discovered? Now it mocks me. All that relentless drive, and for what? This hollow title. This meaningless corner office? Emily, bless her brutally honest heart, isn't pulling any punches either. No gentle support. No, you'll get through this. Instead, it's harsh truths and disappointed looks. My best friend, once a lifeline, now feels like a stranger, and the guilt over losing her friendship gnaws at me almost as much as everything else. My phone buzzes. Another text from Ben's lawyer. Divorce papers. It's that clinical word that hits like a physical blow. The life I built, the illusion of security, is shattering, and there's no one to blame but myself. It's morbid, I know, but I click onto Ben's social media. Photos pop up, jarring in their normalcy. Him smiling with a group of friends, him at some outdoor concert, even him jogging looking fitter than I've seen him in years. Each seemingly carefree image feels like a twisted punishment. He's moving on, while I'm still stuck in the rubble of our life. And so, I withdraw. My apartment becomes a sanctuary of isolation. The pizza delivery guy my only interaction with the outside world. Even my parents' worried calls feel like accusations, their concerns stoking the flames of shame that threaten to consume me entirely. My phone buzzes on the coffee table, and it takes a Herculean effort to make myself look at it. It's him. What's his name from the party? The one my alcohol-soaked brain decided was the answer to all my problems. Are you okay? Flashes on the screen. Stupid question, but the simple thoughtfulness, so unlike the parade of self-serving texts I've been deleting on autopilot, breaks through the numbness. Later, in a nondescript coffee shop, I spill everything. Not everything, but enough. The fractured marriage, the reckless fling, the fallout that feels more like an implosion. He looks both surprised and a little scared, but he doesn't judge. I realize, with a flicker of shame, that I wasn't even looking for another disastrous entanglement, just someone to witness my train wreck of a life without looking away. One painful conversation leads to another, and then another. Instead of downing wine to numb the pain, I find myself in a therapist's office, her steady questions forcing open wounds I didn't even know existed. It's ugly, messy, and I resent the hell out of her for making me face the uncomfortable truths about myself. The boredom gnawing away at me for years, the fear lurking beneath the surface, disguised as a craving for excitement, for danger. My mistakes are no longer solely about Ben's betrayal or Mark's careless seduction. They're about me. News trickles down the twisted office grapevine that Mark has handed in his resignation. They say it was messy, something about an inappropriate relationship. I can't help but feel a pang of guilt, even though I played a smaller role than a rumor mill would have anyone believe. Slowly, I try to replace the self-destructive habits with tiny gestures of care. Walks around the park that feel more like forced marches. A dusty journal I fill with angry scribbles, and the occasional glimmer of self-reflection. I half-heartedly start some of the online courses I used to scroll through while eating takeout with Ben. Then, an unexpected package on my doorstep. It's a box of Ben's things, some clothes, a few books. And on top, nestled in tissue paper, is the locket. An unspoken message, perhaps, that some chapters should simply close rather than be rewritten. Let's not oversell this ending with sunshine and unicorns, because honestly, some days, I still want to throw things. The memory of that disastrous night, the chain of events it set in motion, still has the power to send me spiraling. Time, that supposed healer of all wounds, turns out to be more of a sneaky thief. Stealing the sharp edges of pain, yes, but leaving a dull ache, a constant reminder of how damn hard it is to rebuild trust. In others, and mostly in myself. The once blazing career has simmered down into something predictable. Meetings, deadlines, the occasional office drama that feels more petty than thrilling these days. It's okay. The manic need to prove myself, fueled by that disastrous marriage, has been replaced with something quieter, a desire for stability instead of chasing yet another hollow high. Emily's back in a way. We ran into each other at the grocery store, and it was awkward as hell. Our friendship isn't what it was, but then again, neither of us are. There's a tentative truce, an unspoken acknowledgement that we messed up but weathered the storm. We grab coffee now and then, the conversation stilted yet somehow comfortable. As for men, well, let's just say I've become very acquainted with the delete account button on dating apps. Turns out my fear of being truly seen, the flaws and insecurities laid bare after that whole Ben fiasco, is a major buzzkill. Every man, whether I meet them online or at a work function, begins to resemble a walking checklist. Does he have the potential to blow up my life? Am I capable of causing irreparable damage to his? Oh, and Mark? He pops up occasionally in those clickbait articles. Where are they now? Pieces highlighting ex-colleagues. Apparently, he bounced back, got married, has kids. Sometimes a flicker of resentment flares, the unfairness of it all. Then common sense kicks in. Do I honestly envy his picket fence life? Not particularly. This evening, as I'm nuking a sad excuse for dinner, my phone buzzes. It's a dating app notification, the algorithm's desperate attempt to pull me back in. I hesitate, then decisively delete the app. Maybe I'm not ready, maybe I'll never be. But sitting in the quiet of my apartment, alone but not entirely lonely, there's a sense of acceptance. The past doesn't define me, it's shaped me. And the future? Well, for the first time in a long time, it feels like mine for the taking. Maybe the excitement this time won't be the heart-stopping, destructive kind, but something slower, steadier. A kind of excitement I build for myself, brick by brick, with a healthy dose of self-awareness